So welcome back for another mindful movement session, another great way to spend your Tuesday afternoon and a good way to get your body moving and mobilized, which can help you to move better, hopefully, through the rest of the week. So we are going to start, as we always do, by getting yourself in a nice, comfortable position wherever you are. I'm going to start with some breathing in through the nose and out through the mouth. And whenever you're ready to, over the next couple of breaths, let's continue that breathing and close down the eyes. Try and make the out breath of your breathing longer than the in breath. So when you breathe in through your nose, just a nice deep breath in. And as you breathe out, just try and extend it. It doesn't have to be really long, just extend it out just to be longer than the in breath. And a good way to do that is just to bring your lips closer together and just sort of blow through that smaller hole that you've created with your lips. And as you do this, notice how your body reacts to it. Your shoulders drop. You feel more calm in yourself. The focus comes inwards as well. You start to block out other things in your surroundings. We've already helped by closing the eyes. That brings the focus inwards naturally. But as you breathe, you start to forget about the noises. You start to forget about the smells or whatever else it be. And you just focus on that breathing, which is nice to bring the focus inwards. And that's how we always start the session, by reminding ourselves that we want to be focused throughout this session today. We don't need to worry about what's come before us. We don't need to worry about what's going to be after the session. All we need to focus is on the here, the now, and this next hour. And as we go through each and every movement, stretch, flow, whatever it may be, we've been focused on each individual movement and focusing on that only. We don't need to worry about those surroundings, just on the thing that we're doing at that moment. And this is just a moment to remind us of that. Because the more focused we are, the more we get from each movement. And also that will help us to relax our mind, take our worries away for just a little bit. It's going to help us to relax, which is good. Keep your breathing going in through the nose, out through the mouth, but let's sit up straight if you aren't already. And when you're ready to, keep the breathing going, but open up your eyes and let's start to shrug the shoulders up as you breathe in. And as you breathe out, let them relax down. So just go through that movement, shrugging up, relaxing down. And I've explained how this helps, but I will again. So essentially what we're doing is starting a nice, simple, easy movement in the shoulders, just shrugging up and down, which hopefully most, if not all of us, can do to a good range of motion. From the ones I see on camera, I know that there are maybe one shoulder goes better than the other, a little bit more, or some of you can get good full range of motion. Whatever you can do is the best. And just going through there, and that's just going to help send blood to that area. It's waking that area up. It's telling the brain that it needs to send signals, send the blood with the oxygen and all the nutrients it needs to that area to assist it in this movement. Good work. So breathe in, squeeze up, really squeeze that muscle. That's going to help to send the blood to the area. And as you breathe out, really relax them down. Keep the breathing going, but instead of shrugging now, let's just rotate those shoulders around in a nice, easy, gentle circle. We're just increasing the movement here, ever so gently. And we will do a little bit more and more as we go through the next couple of exercises. It's all about warming these shoulders up. Whether you're a wheelchair user or not, whether you're a manual wheelchair user or a power wheelchair user, having these shoulders being mobilized will be important. Most of us here live a life more seated, so we are already compromising our shoulders just from the posture of sitting down. So having them be able to be mobile, and as I'm talking now, let's change direction with that. Having this time to mobilize it, send the blood to the area, keep it moving is really going to help to keep it healthy, because our body only reacts to the stimulus that we give it. So if we give it some mobility work, it wants to stay mobile. If you give it strength work, it becomes strong. If you give it endurance work, it becomes better at the endurance. So our body is very good at adapting to what we give it, but it's also very good at adapting what you don't give it as well. So if you say, we're not doing any movement, it will start to get really good at not doing any movement. So having at least one session a week where we mobilize is going to help to keep it moving. Good. Relax that down now. Instead of the shrugging up and down, we're going to push the shoulders forwards and then squeeze the shoulder blades back. So I'll turn to the side as well, so you can see it from there. So push the shoulders forwards and bring them back and squeeze them tight and back and forth. And again, try and pull that chest forward, squeeze the chest muscles a little bit if you can feel it there. And then as you pull them back, squeeze those shoulder blades together. You'll probably feel it a little bit in the upper back there. And that's going to increase the blood flow in the chest and the back, along with the shoulders that we've already done. And this whole area is receiving what it needs. Good. Okay, now let's continue with some shoulder movements, but now we're going to put our hands on our shoulders. They don't have to be locked in place, but we're just going to do some nice gentle circles round. And with this, just do what you can. You don't need to go really big with this. Just some smaller ones are fine, just rotating it round. And as you feel more comfortable with it, you can go maybe a little bit more, but it doesn't have to be anything too crazy here with this. Just nice, simple, easy movements. Good work, everybody. And as always, if you can't do it double arm like I am, you can always do the single arm. If you can do both arms, but for balance reasons, it's a little bit tricky. You can always do a couple on one side and then switch it over to the other side. Or if you want to alternate as well, that's another option. There's lots of options there. Find what works for you. As long as those elbows are drawing a good circle and feeling comfortable, that's the main thing there. Good work. Okay, same movement, but let's change the direction. So whether you're going forwards or backwards, go the opposite way now. And you'll feel it slightly differently. When we rotate backwards, like I'm doing now, you get maybe a little bit more of a stretch in the chest as you bring it around. And the other way, maybe a little bit more of a stretch in the back, but it all evens out. And that's why we like to do both directions, because we want that balance in our body. Good work. Okay, let's take one arm now. We're going to open up a little bit more and do like we do on our warm-ups for our more fitness-based stuff and getting that moving around in a circle, but nice and slow. We don't need to rush this here. We're just trying to draw a nice big circle. Now our shoulders, the chest, the back is a little bit more warmed up. This movement becomes a little bit easier in terms of range of motion, in terms of control. Good work. Okay, with that same arm, let's change direction and keeping it going round. Good. Again, so we've done this before plenty of times, but It's all about that progression from those simple movements we started with the shrugging and the shoulder rotations, building it through, and then this is really taking the shoulder through its full range of motion as we switch over to the other arm. And that is just helping it just to take it through its stages and maximize it. It's not just about warming up nicely. It's all about maximizing each part. So each one complements the next one and allows you to do it a little bit better than you would if you didn't do the ones before it. So it helps to just do things in stages. Good work. Let's change direction with that arm and moving it around. Good. You can almost think of it like your washing machine. If you just started with the spin cycle, it might get washed a bit, but it's going to be better if you do all the other previous steps beforehand. If it, it gets its soak, make sure the soap is all evenly distributed and do the proper wash, shake it up a bit, and then do the spin cycle at the end. It's done properly. So yeah, I'm proud of that analogy. I thought that in on the spot. There just happens to be a washing machine over there. Excellent. Good. Let's start to warm up these shoulders a little bit in a different way now by reaching over towards the opposite shoulder. And as always, if you can't reach all the way over, get to where you can. If that's the near shoulder, or if it's too much even that, you can come across the front of the body. The main thing here is getting that elbow bend in along with the shoulder movement as well. And that just helps us to start to expand out from our shoulders. And we are going to be extending this a little bit further in a second. And so instead of reaching over towards the opposite shoulder, I want you to reach over and reach over a little bit as well. And just like so. So again, if you can reach over, absolutely great. If you can't reach over like so, instead of not coming as far, I want you to come in front of the body instead. So you can come in front of the face, in front of the body, but I still want you to reach over, and that's going to help you to get that stretch in there. We don't need to hold it. We just reach over. Where you start to feel the resistance, you'll naturally want to come back again. That's a good spot to do it. And over and back, and that's just going to help as we start to spread outwards from that shoulder. So the first one where we're reaching over, it goes down to the elbow with the reaching over to opposite shoulder. That's involving the elbow, so we're involving the biceps and the triceps. This one's involving those big back muscles, the lats. So we've warmed up our shoulders. We're still warming them up a bit still, but we're involving the other muscles around it. And we will continue to do so as we go into the next one, which again is what we usually do in our warm-up, but we're going to slow it down by giving ourselves a hug and then arms out. And if you join my sessions that I do on a Wednesday, we do it nice and quick to warm up. But on this one, we're going to slow it right down and try and get a little bit more of a stretch. So really squeeze, feel that stretch. And as you come out, feel that stretch across your chest there. And go back and forth. And some of you might naturally do this anyway, but I like to make sure I'm swapping the arms each time, which one's coming around. You'll probably find you're already doing it, because it's just a natural thing to do. But yeah, one side, bring your right arm on top, and then the next time, bring the left arm on top. And make sure you don't skimp out on the opening up part as well. You want to make sure you are getting that stretch in as you bring those arms back. So it's not just open up, it's really open up. Feel that stretch, open the chest up, and then squeeze it tight as you come in. Just back and forth between the two. And again, we're extending out from that shoulder joint. So we started with the first one, we're reaching over to each shoulder, bending at the elbow. That brings it down through the biceps, the triceps, the elbow. The next one we did extended into the big back muscles. This one's extending into the chest at the front and the upper back muscles as well. So we're really expanding out. And all those muscles that I've just mentioned do actually connect to the shoulder joint. So it might not seem that it's directly like affecting it, but it actually is, because the shoulder joint is the most complicated joint in the body. In fact, it's not just one joint, it's three or maybe even more. I keep forgetting which ones are in there, but there's a lot of joints in there, and it's the most complicated joint in the body. So there's a lot of muscles, and they all need their little special time by themselves to be able to stretch it out, move it, and mobilize it. Good. Let's relax those down, and we're just going to some shoulder rotations again. And you may find this might even be a little bit easier to move this time than when we did it just a second ago as well. So you can kind of get a feeling of how it is. I know for myself, doing those little stretches really helps to open up this shoulder joint, and it just moves and glides just a little bit easier, which is always good. Excellent work. Let's change direction. Make sure we're getting every little bit here. Good work. Okay, we can relax there a second, and let's have a little drink break, because we're going to go into a little bit of extended breathing and movements next. So I'm going to grab mine. Good work, everybody. So it's gonna leave it a minute. Some people are off screen and their cameras went, so I'll just give it another 10 seconds or so, just to let them catch up with us if they're coming back in. Yeah, good. As I was saying, it's really good to open up the shoulders, get the stretching in, get the mobility in. That sends all the blood and nutrients and everything that the shoulders need in that moment. Because, as I said, our bodies are really good at adapting, but they're also really good at like making your body giving your body essentially exactly what it needs in that moment. So, and it's all down to the stimulus. You basically tell your body to do something, and your body reacts by giving you everything it can give you to be able to perform it to the best of its ability. So it's really, really efficient at doing that as well. And so, you know, when we relax and try and you do the breathing, our body naturally sends all the things to help us to relax, which is great. And then when we want to become more active, and that it sends all the things like the adrenaline, the hormones, the blood, the oxygen, everything gets sent to the parts that it needs. So body's fantastic, and I'm always fascinated by it. So I'm always happy to share. Wow, whether anybody wants it or not, I'm always wanting to share the information. So it's all good. Okay, it seems like everybody's mostly back now, and we can move on to some breathing. So let's start with our deep breathing again to begin with, and then we'll move some movements into it. So in through the nose, out through the mouth, and continue that breathing. Just nice deep breath in through the nose, breathe out through the mouth. And again, try and make that out breath a little bit longer than the in breath. That's a really good way to help you to relax down in this moment. Okay, hopefully you've gotten a good rhythm there. Now let's bring the hands up as we breathe in and push down as we breathe out. And repeat through, just in your own time. And the breathing dictates the movement, not the other way around. So however long it takes you to breathe in, that's how long it takes you to raise your arms. And then however long it takes you to breathe out, that's how long you take to do your arms. So your breathing is determining how long each of those is. And that's going to look different for all of us, because it's not going to be exactly the same timing. So however long it takes, do that. And try and make these nice smooth movements with the hand as well. So it's not breathe in, breathe out, breathe in, breathe out. It's breathe in, relax, glide back and forth between the two. Good work. Good. Okay. As we breathe in, we do the same movement on the breathing, but as we breathe out, we're going to push both hands forwards and then drop them down in between. Breathe in. Now, keep that going, but just want to mention there is like a little, maybe a gap in between your breaths here. So I like to breathe in this position, breathe out, and then when I get to here, I kind of hold it out until it gets back down to the bottom, and then I start breathing in again. So just do a little hold out of the breath as I raise them, as I lower them back down. So it's breathe in, breathe out, keep it, breathe, keep the breath out, put those arms down, and then go back to breathing in. Okay, let's keep the arms up around this area at the top of our in breath, but this time we're just going to push one arm out and then bring it back in. Swap over to the other side, push that one out and bring it back in. This time we're going to breathe out as we push forwards. Breathe in as you pull in. So breathe it out. Breathe it in. Changing arms. Breathing out. Breathing in. And just going back and forth between the two. Nice and gentle. Nice and controlled. Good work, everybody. Just keep that going. But now what we're going to do is try and extend that a little bit more. So instead of sitting upright the whole time, if you're able to, reach one arm forwards and reach down to extend that arm forwards before bringing it back again. And you may have seen as well, or know from previous sessions, you can rest with the opposite arm. And that helps you just to extend forwards if you need that extra support. And I'll leave that up to you whether you want. If you have to use the support, you have to use the support. But if you just want to use it, that's also fine if you don't necessarily need to use it. Here, we're just reaching forwards and bringing it back. Breathing out as you reach forwards. Really stretch it forwards until you feel that stretch in your, kind of like the back of your armpit is the area we should be kind of feeling it in. But anywhere sort of on that back is a good thing, as long as it's not painful, but feeling that stretch there and bring it back in. Breathe out as you reach forwards. Stretch it out. Breathe in, bring it back, sitting up again and going back and forth between the two. And this specific one where we are linking the breathing in is really, really helpful in a lot more situations than you think, because having obviously we breathe naturally without thinking about it, but conscious breathing has like a really powerful effect on our nervous system, especially because it helps us to stay relaxed, stay calm, and to not let things elevate too much. And when we're doing the stretching, that's really handy because it allows us to do a little bit further with the stretching and helps us to really open up the shoulders. So that's one reason why we do it. But also it helps to train you to be able to do it all the time. So I know for myself, there's some situations where I need to be relaxed and calm. I can't think of one right now, but I've definitely been in situations, but I'm still moving. So I don't have the opportunity to maybe like stop and relax what I'm doing, but I have to keep moving, but I want to be in a relaxed movement. So this helps us to kind of train ourselves to be able to do that a bit. And then the more you do it, the more natural it becomes. And you can get into those relaxed states a lot quicker. Okay, let's bring it back into the middle and we'll go in. Well, sorry, I missed one out. So instead of coming straight back this time, we come up and over and we extend that a little bit more. So again, we'll reach forwards just like we did. And then instead of coming straight back, up and over and back behind us. I come to the side as well in case you didn't see it from there. So reaching forwards. And then instead of coming straight back, up and over. Now, if you can't get up and over, just do what you can. If that's up and to the side, or even lower, whatever it may be, and then over to the other arm. So alternating between the arms still, but reach forwards, up and over, and back there. Good work. Keep that going. Nice work. Okay, now let's bring it and move on to the next one. So bring it into the center. Instead of going forwards, we go out to one side, bringing it back in, out to the other side. If you're not already, let's start the breathing. Breathe out as you push out. Breathe in as you pull in. Repeat on the other side. And why I like doing it not just to the front, because the breathing and the movement, we're getting essentially the same thing from going forwards as we did to the side. But what I like about these is that it slightly challenges the core at the same time. So not a huge amount, but when we're going back and forth, keep the side to side going as I'm explaining this. As I'm going back and forth, it's challenging my core and my lower back like we do with our core exercises. But when we're going to the side, it's challenging the muscles on the side here instead. So it's keeping me upright, keeping that breathing going, and I'm just involving different muscles. So we're recruiting different muscles into the different movements. And then when we get into more extended in a minute as well, that becomes exacerbated essentially. It becomes harder to stay upright. So it's good to involve more than one muscle or one way of working it as well. Okay, let's start to do that extension now. So as you reach out, don't just sit up straight. Let's lean over and then back. And as you can see, for myself, I like to hold on with the opposite hand, and that allows me just to reach a little bit further than I would otherwise. And I also like to bring the ear down onto the arm and just extend things just a little bit more. Because again, then we're adding in some extra. We've got some neck movement here as well, side to side, which we'll be doing a little bit more coming up soon. It's starting to involve those muscles. So we're doing an exercise here that involves those core muscles, involves the arms, involves the shoulders, involves the neck. Lots of movements working together with the breathing, connecting it as well. And it just really helps us to move a lot nicer, using more than one muscle, more than two muscles to do a single movement. And again, I'm clearly in a chatty mood tonight, so you're going to get lots of information. If you have any questions afterwards, say, what was that again? Just as always, feel free to send an email to Lacey or Liz, and I'll give you the notes from the session. Or you can rewatch the recording. That's the other option. Good work. So as we reach out, let's do that a little bit more. So reaching out and then up and over, down, and then almost like we're putting a seatbelt on, clipping it in, just like so. Nice work. So just extending it a little bit more, reaching up and over. And like the previous movement as well, we can't come up and over, we can come up and to the front instead. Or however, it is easier for you with the shoulder mobility, if there's any pain or discomfort. And then maybe one side, you can get really good range of motion, and the other side, not so much. And that's fine. Do what we can with what we've given. Excellent work. Let's bring it into the center on that one that you're on, and then let's do some shoulder rotations just to finish off this little bit of movement. And again, notice how they feel on this bit. It's cleared up even more. On the first one, it was like clunk, 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 clunk all the way around. And then on the second one, it was more like clunk, clunk, and now it's one every other turn. So yeah, it's a little bit smoother and a little bit easier to move. Let's change direction. Good work. Excellent. Okay, let's have another little hydration break, and then we'll go on to our neck and our spinal mobility. And we'll wait for everyone to get back. But yeah, that's why I like spreading the information that I do as well, because when like I've done obviously a lot of research over the years and lots of different things. I've done lots of education based on fitness, and there is a lot of misinformation out there. But when it comes to fitness, it's actually really simple. It's kind of like if you want to get like better at something, you do that thing and you get better at it. You'd have to do some weird and wonderful like Tibetan monk breathing or something to be. You just do some normal deep breathing and you get better at deep breathing. You know, and if you want to become more flexible, you don't need to like hang upside down from like some specialized rope. You just do stretching and you get better at stretching. You know, it's really simple when you break it down, and it's all about the stimulus that you give your body. So you give your body a stimulus and it will react to that stimulus, and it'll give you exactly what it can give you in that moment. And what it can't give you, it will say, okay, we need to get better at doing this. And it will adapt, your body will adapt and then get better at it next time. And it's tiny little gains each time. But every time you get a little bit better, and you progress towards the goal of whatever your goal might be. So the only thing that is the hard bit along that journey is the motivation to do it every time, which is a great what we can do these sessions together because we can motivate each other, and it's a session that you just turn up, so you don't need to go to a location, and it's really handy. So enough of that talking again. Let's go into some mobility in our neck, and we'd start with some looking up, looking down, and nice and easy gliding between the two. Good. Good work. So nice, simple, easy movements. Good. On this as well, we don't necessarily need to go for a really long range of motion. We're going to do some stretching in a minute, which will extend that range of motion. But on this movement, it's just about getting it warmed up, essentially, just like we did in the shoulders before we did a little bit more of a stretching movement. We're starting to send the blood to it. We're starting to mobilize it. That's going to help relax the muscles a little bit, allow that range of motion to increase. And we're just taking it through the movement. Let's start to add in a little bit stretch. Now, the next time you find yourself looking down, let's let gravity take over and just let it drop there. I'm just conscious because I've got the microphone right here and it'll get louder if I point down to it. So I won't talk too much right now. And you can breathe into this as well. Just let gravity take over, stretching the back of that neck out. And then when you're ready to ease out of it, let's do a couple of looking up and downs before we go into the hold looking up, which we'll do when you find yourself next looking up. Let's hold that position. And then remembering, if you want to increase the stretch, you can put the hand on the sternum. That's the bone in between your rib cage. And then we can keep the mouth closed and extend that neck up, and you'll feel that stretch underneath the jaw, in the front of the neck. And then even from there, so say you've got your hand on the sternum, the mouth's closed, you're extended, you can feel that stretch through the front of the neck. You can always increase it a little bit more by rotating the head side to side as you do so. And you may find that maybe you look over to the right and it's a little bit more of a stretch. And you might find you look over to the left and it's a little bit less of a stretch, or vice versa, or everything stretching or everything feels loose. Either way, you're finding different parts of your neck, and it's quite interesting sometimes to try and figure out why one side might be more than the other. But let's ease out of that now. Let's look up and down just to ease out of it. It's always nice just to get it moving again before we go on to the next one, which is going to be our rotation. So looking side to side, nice and gentle. And just like the looking up and down, we don't need to really extend the neck. We're going to increase the stretch in a minute. We're starting to, again, give that stimulus. We're telling our neck, we're moving it, and that's going to send the signal back to our brain. And then our brain's going to next signal is going to send everything it needs to help with that movement. And it's just constantly firing back and forth at the speed of light, because it's the electric signal. So it's going really quick back and forth signals. Good, easy movements. And the next time you find yourself looking to the left, let's hold it there. First, we'll just hold it for a second and just notice how it feels in the stretch bit. If you feel like it's not enough, like you're not getting much or any stretch at all, you can put your left hand on your right collarbone and gently pull it down diagonally towards your right armpit. And that is going to help just to increase the stretch a little bit. You may need to play around with your hand position, whether you put it directly on the collarbone, a little bit under, a little bit over. I find personally putting it on top of the collarbone helps. And sometimes I just need to move around until I find that position. And then when I do, the stretch will feel similar to when we're looking up. And it'll kind of go between that collarbone and the jaw, because that's how the muscle connects. And let's ease out of it. Do a couple of looking lefts and rights. And then now let's look over to the right side, hold it there. And if you want to increase it, right hand on the left collarbone and stretch it out. And again, play around with it if you can't feel it straight away. I almost never get it first go. But when I do, I can feel it. And keeping the mouth closed helps as well. So, although I seem to have a difficult time closing my mouth today. So, yeah, let's ease out of that. Do another couple of looking lefts and rights again. Nice. Okay, let's move on to the last one of these type of movements. We're bringing one ear to one shoulder, one ear to the other, back and forth between the two. And you'll probably find this is the one that you're already feeling those stretching movements generally as you go side to side. That's perfectly normal. Good work. Keep that going. Nice, easy movements. Try and curl it over rather than just bending it over. But generally it kind of falls into that pattern anyway. So do what feels normal to you. And although I say bring the ear to the shoulder, unless you bring the shoulder up, it's not going to touch it. So keep the shoulders down and just go one side and then the other. As well, keeping the shoulders down helps to increase the stretch on the opposite side. So you can feel it if you bring, say, your right ear to your right shoulder, and then the left shoulder's down. If you bring that left shoulder up, you can get that stretch is completely gone. But if it's dropped down, that stretch increases. So you can kind of already feel the difference there. And that's how we increase that stretch as we hold it. So let's go into the hold position. Now left ear to left shoulder, and then the right arm, we're either keep on our lap, if you can feel the stretch already, but if not, drop the left arm down, increase that even more, or bring it behind our back to again increase it a little bit more. And I'll show you what it looks like from behind. Sorry, I normally take this bag off for the session, but it's on today. But yeah, we can drop that arm down or bring it behind us like so. And that helps just to shift things if you can't quite feel it on one. Good, let's ease out of it. Do a couple of lefts and rights, just nice and gentle. And then the next time you find your right ear at your right shoulder, hold in that position, drop the left arm down if you need to, or bring it behind if that's better for yourself. But however it is, feel a good stretch in there. You can move your head around a little bit. Try and keep the ear towards the shoulder, but you can bring it forwards, bring it back, rotate it even a little bit. Try and find the areas that feel tighter, and you might get a little bit more benefit from the stretch. Good. Let's ease out of it again there. Nice. Okay. I just want to do, look, because we've worked our shoulders and the neck a little bit, let's just use a little bit of shoulder rotation again. Just back and forth. We won't spend too long on it because we want to move on to the rest of our spine, which we're doing now. So we're going to do our flexion extension. So extend through, flex down. If you could do it like this, where you can help pull yourself through using the frame of your chair or even your legs, that's great. So keep that going. I know most of you know that movement already. Curling like a prawn, arching like a high jumper. If that's too difficult though, remember you can always use the back of your chair. Just sit up straight, looking up to the ceiling, and then curling forwards. But like I said, it's curling forwards. It's not bending and just bending in half, essentially. We're trying to curl over. almost like you're trying to create a hunchback in that situation. So you're trying to hunch over. That's the position we want to be in. That's curling the spine and mobilizing the vertebrae. And we go back and forth between the two. And that's why I say curling like a prawn, because you kind of look like a prawn in this position if you have low little legs. And then as you come through, you're arching like a high jump and going over a pole. And you can almost imagine what your spine is like in this position. It's not just bending like this, it's curling and then arching. I can't really do it with my arm because my arm doesn't do it. But yeah, it's like a slinky. Go back and forth between the two. Good. Okay, let's go into our rotation next, which we can use our arms to assist. Rotate one side and then the other. Back and forth between the two. Swag. Okay, let's go into our lateral flexion now. That's where we reach down to one side and then down to the other. And this is like when we bring the ear to the shoulder, but instead kind of bringing our shoulders over to the side. And with this as well, try and stay, like we say, we're trying to stay up, not upright as such, but we're trying to not to bend forwards as we do it. So don't let yourself bend forwards and reach forwards. Try and stay in a straight line and just go side to side. And it doesn't matter if you just go a little bit of movement, as long as you can feel that spine curling over to one side, curling over to the other, back and forth. Good, okay. Let's combine some of those movements together by coming round in a whirlpool. Nice and gentle and controlled. And this just combines a little bit of lateral flexion, a little bit of flexion, a little bit of extension. And although we're going around in a circle, it's not really involving the rotation, although we are rotating around. That's different types of rotation. Let's change direction on that. But I do like this one because it kind of just gets all the in-between bits. There's those four movements in both our neck and our spine. We kind of never really do just one, or that we nearly always combine at least two of the movements together as we're going through different day-to-day activities. So I like that little one at the end as we finish off that exercise, just to get the bits in between, which is always nice. Good. Let's take one final drink break here, and then we will go into our little bit of meditation at the end that will bring us through to the end of the session. So a little bit of an easier session today. We took a little bit longer on most of the things there as well. So each one we extend it out, and sometimes that's good. Sometimes we want to get through and do some more complicated yoga movements. Sometimes it's good just to slow things down and spend a little bit more time. And that's going to vary for everybody as well. So we would just do the best we can to do that. And just checking everybody's there. That'll do for now. Cool. All right, let's move into this meditation. We'll start off with our deep breathing. So go in through the nose again, out through the mouth. Let's center ourselves. And over the next couple of breaths, you can start to close your eyes down. So just nice, slow, deep breathing in through the nose, out through the mouth. Out breath longer than the in breath if you can do that. and just make yourself nice and comfortable as you're doing this breathing, as we will go for our body scan to begin with. So we start with the top of our head and we'll go all the way to the tip of our toes, checking in with each part of our body as we go and just noticing how it is. Remember, we're not trying to fix anything in this moment. We're just observing, making mental notes, and helping us to understand how our body feels on a more regular basis. The more we do this, the better we're going to get at understanding how it normally feels. And even just doing it once a week, you'll still get a bit better at knowing how your body feels and how, if maybe there's an underlying issue that you haven't noticed yet, it can help you pick it up. So let's go to the top of our head to start with, and we'll work our way down through our forehead first of all. So give it a wiggle, give it a move, see how it feels. You can always touch it with your hands or your arms or whatever, and just know how your forehead feels. And just feel if it feels like it normally does. And if it doesn't, make a mental note of it to keep an eye on it. And then as we move down into our eyes, and feeling the eyes, you obviously don't want to poke your eyes out, but you can squeeze your eyes in with just by squeezing them closed. You can open them up and just give them some movement around and just see how it feels. Moving into our cheeks and our jaw, you can give that all a movement, seeing how everything feels and if it's operating normally to our baseline that we accumulate over doing that multiple times. Let's move into our neck. And we always say with the neck, after we've just done some movement, sometimes it can feel really nice and loose, but just a little bit achy because we've done some stretches that we may not have done for a week or even maybe more. Cool. And now we're at the base of our neck. Let's move out to our shoulders and we can give these a rotation. And we kind of did this through the session as well. You know, maybe it started off that little bit clunky and it loosened up as we went through. You can see notice how it feels at the end. And if there's anything that, you know, if one side might be a little bit clunky, maybe try and think about why that might be. Maybe it's how you lean at the desk. Maybe it's because you're right-handed and you're writing a lot or chopping a lot of vegetables or whatever it may be. Maybe one side's just being worked more than the other. But however it is, just make a note and just keep an eye on those things. Move down now through our arms into our elbows. And again, we can notice how things are. The elbows are often overlooked as a wheelchair user. We focus a lot on our shoulders and generally as well a lot on our wrists, but the elbows are that in-between joint that also need looking after. So noticing how that feels and checking in on it. Moving down through our forearms into our wrists now, focusing on the movement, facing how it feels, the range of motion, moving down into your fingers. And even for someone like myself who doesn't have a lot of finger movement because of being a quadriplegic, I still, whatever I've got, I like to check in on it, see how much range of motion I've got, see how much flexibility on how it feels as well. Like, is it easy to extend my fingers today? Is it easy to squeeze them in? Is it painful when I do it? Just checking in and seeing how they feel. Let's bring the focus right the way back up our arms now into our spine again. And we can start to give ourselves a wiggle, go through some of those movements we did on the previous exercise round. And that will just help us to know how it feels. So a little bit more focus on the spine and its feeling rather than the specific movements. As we move down now into our hips, remembering it doesn't matter if you can feel this area or not. For myself, I can't feel my hips, but it's always good just to put some focus into it, see what comes back as a feedback. I get a little bit of feedback from more like tightness and resistance in the area rather than specific feelings. So I just like to check on it and see, is that resistance more today or is it not as much today or whatever it may be, or is it just as it normally is? Moving down now into my knees. For this bit, I can kind of manipulate with my hands a little bit. So I like to give them a little wiggle side to side. And it's a little bit trickier in the wheelchair now, but when I go to bed, I like to just give them a bit of a movement just to keep them nice and healthy. Moving down it through our legs into our ankles now. And I'm not going to be able to move the ankles, but at least I can send some energy down, see what comes back, see how it feels, and then down into our toes. Wiggle them if you can, see how they feel. And we're going to move on to closing down this exercise. And how we do that is to breathe in through our nose, but we'll do this together, this next bit. I want you to imagine you've got a beam of light that as you breathe in, it's going to go from the tip of your toes. As you breathe in, it's going to crawl its way up your body to the top of your head. And then as you breathe out, it's going to expel out through you. So, and then we'll do it 3 times. So all together, breathing in from the tip of your toes now as you filled up, and then breathe out. 2 more times. Breathing in, breathing out. 1 more time. Breathing in, breathing out. And on that last one, let's open up our eyes, bring ourselves to the room. And that one kind of brings us out, those 3 deep breaths. It kind of brings us and gives us a little bit of a jump out of the session, so you don't come out of the session feeling like, oh, I could do with a sleep right now. Just like gives you that little bit of burst of energy to go about your day. But we're finishing pretty much perfectly on timing there. So I would like to thank you all again for joining me today.